Welcome back to LEGO Wars Champions. Tonight is the last chance for our machines to take on a bounty boss ahead of our finale next week and a final opportunity for our bosses to turn the tide on this current whitewash. Tonight, the bounty boss is Ripperoni. The unusual vertical spinner ripped up the script in last year's international special, taking the second international crown for the USA. They couldn't keep up that form in the main series though, with defeats to Petunia and Megalodon, so this will be their chance to show they're not a one-event wonder. Let's see the lineup for tonight. We'll kick off with a breakfast treat as Mr Waffle takes on Nightmare before LEGO Wars poster bot Sweepy faces Wacken-Aten. Two rookies make their debut next to New York Slice and Sriracha before the paradox-eyed Mingo faces Brick Astley. There's an interesting mix in this final bracket, so let's pass over to Sam and get on with the action.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Our final episode of LEGO Wars Champions begins with Nightmare and Mr Waffle, and immediately Mr Waffle's front panel has been ripped away, its face torn off, and the bacon blade has been stopped and still. They said they had made improvements to the weaponry to make it more effective and keep it on in this series of LEGO Wars, but so far that doesn't seem to be the case. One hit from Nightmare and I think Mr Waffle's weapon has gone. Oh well, there it goes, completely gone now, ripped away by Nightmare, who in its third year at LEGO Wars has never really had the success it maybe should have had, but at this competition here is ripping Mr Waffles apart. The top armour ripped away, toasted you could say, but Mr Waffle has a good driving platform, it has to be said, pushing Nightmare back, keeping the pressure on. Work to do though in the eyes of the judges, and Nightmare goes for the pit button, pushing the bacon blade across the arena, doesn't get the pit button to activate. They will be cautious of that pit being activated by their opponent Mr Waffle, who is keeping them kind of pinned in that corner. Mr Waffle bails for the pit as expected. That's kind of their last resort, but Nightmare still have that weapon up to speed now. It's not really churning through the gears as it once was. The Nightmare weapon, it's definitely struggled and slowed down quite a lot, and Mr Waffle here, to their credit, still in the fight, still fighting. All of this of course on our quest to find an opponent for Ripperoni at the end of the episode. Mr Waffle hunting down Nightmare, who they've definitely stopped that weapon, haven't they? It's not running as it once was at the start of the fight. It wasn't knocking bits of armour off anymore. Nightmare rocking and rolling backward and forward. Mr Waffle chasing them down here, being very aggressive if it goes to a judge's decision, and in underneath Nightmare now. Now can they turn Nightmare over? That would end the fight in Mr Waffle's favour. Would be a bit of a surprise at this stage if they were able to make a recovery like that. Nightmare still on top, I would say, just in terms of points, but you never know with the judges. They will mark on control, aggression and weapon effectiveness. And almost poor control there from Nightmare backing itself into the pit. That would have been very embarrassing if they'd have done that. But Mr Waffle is definitely coming back into this fight, and Nightmare without its weapon, what else can it do? It can't really push Mr Waffle around because of the geometry of the two robots, and we are going to go to a decision, and I do think it's a valiant effort from Mr Waffle to come back into this fight. I'm not a judge, I will have no idea how this one's going to go, but a brilliant fight to open up the episode between Mr Waffle and Nightmare. Brilliant fight. Well, Mr Waffle's capability of damaging their opponent was kind of ended within the first second of the fight as Nightmare dislodged the bacon blade, but from then on in, Nightmare, despite causing the big damage early doors, as soon as that weapon of Nightmare started to falter, the tide of the fight changed in Mr Waffle's favour. It started to bully and pressure Nightmare, and Nightmare never really recovered from then on in. It was kind of limping towards the finish, and it will be a very tense decision.
And the winner, by unanimous decision, is Nightmare. Waffle's bodge to keep the bar on clearly needs more work as Nightmare moves on to face either Sweepy or Wacken-Aten.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Two of the most unique and contrasting robots meet in the LEGO Wars arena. Wacken-Aten and Sweepy go face to face and head to head, and good impact there from Sweepy, who probably unfortunate not to have done better in All Stars, you could say. They did not do as well as they were hoping to do. Wacken-Aten, meanwhile, back in the LEGO Wars arena with new wheels and a new chain guard to protect the weapon, they say. Sweepy facing back to Wacken-Aten. Interesting tactics there from the shuffler. Oh, and down comes the Wacken-Aten thwacker, but it's been ripped away by Sweepy's overhead bar spinner. And oh dear me, there goes the wheel split as well. What can Wacken-Aten do now? Sweepy, it's a bit of an open net for them now at the moment, you have to say. Wacken-Aten, well, they'll be kicking themselves for that one, won't they? Because they kind of brought the weapon over the top and it just got ripped apart by the Sweepy bar spinner. Sweepy, probably, you'd have to say, the headliner of this week's episode in terms of robots you'd expect to go through to meet Ripperoni. The wheel has split on Wacken-Aten and it can't traverse across the arena. They are stuck in the middle of the arena. Look, the new wheel design has split apart. It's been broken even more now by Sweepy. Well, it's not looking too great for Wacken-Aten. They can't, translate across the arena. It's all Sweepy and they are being counted out. Wacken-Aten, Sweepy with a commanding performance. That huge overhead bar spinner resulting in a victory by a knockout for Sweepy. And that is the end of Wacken-Aten's run in LEGO Wars Champions. Sweepy comes back in on the attack with the hits on the back. Good win for Sweepy as they go through to the next round. Wacken-Aten were always a little bit up against it when it came to fighting Sweepy because, well, Sweepy's got that enormously powerful bar spinner and all the experience in the world. Kind of difficult to damage Sweepy as well. That was crucial damage though against Wacken-Aten's overhead thwacker. The wheel got bust apart as well and eventually completely dismantled itself and splitting apart, which left them immobile in the centre of the arena and allowed Sweepy to progress to the next round.
Those new wheels are looking particularly wibbly on Thwack as Sweepy cleaves them apart to progress. Next up is two horizontal rookies in New York Slice and Sriracha.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Sriracha then and New York Slice, our penultimate match in the first round lineup. New York Slice, of course, based off a beetle weight of the same name by Robert Webb. Sriracha, based off a beetle weight known as the Chili Daddy. Oh, and a big impact there from New York Slice, pulling off one of the forks. But I think Sriracha here is struggling with drive on one side already, but it seems to be okay now. Well, struggling on one side of drive will be New York Slice. A wheel ripped away, but there goes the disc from Sriracha. What is going on in this fight? Just pure chaos by the looks of things. Sriracha doing what Chili Daddy once did and throwing its weapon off, as it's wont to do. This fight has kind of taken a bit of a turn, hasn't it? Because now New York Slice's weapon, it's dragging along the floor. It can't really use that weapon now. Sriracha hasn't got a weapon of, at all now. It's not got its forks. It's got nothing left really. But New York Slice is it's just about escaping its circumference, I think. No countdown has appeared on my screen just yet. Sriracha, meanwhile, backs away. And can they get the victory? Oh, New York Slice, well, they've opened the pit here, and New York Slice is in a very compromised position. New York Slice on the lip of the pit. Sriracha, all they need to do is just push them down, and that'll be fight over and fight one for the newcomer. Two new robots to LEGO Wars. Sriracha pushes New York Slice over the pit. The wheel is off the floor, and that'll be the end of New York Slice, I think, as Sriracha takes a very deserved victory. But what a chaotic fight between the two newcomers. Well, two newcomers to the LEGO Wars roster, and a pretty decent debut for both of them. We saw New York Slice causing early damage there, ripping off both forks from Sriracha. Sriracha returning in kind with an armour panel ripped away, and indeed the wheel of New York Slice ripping away. The disc flies off Sriracha, but eventually the pit was opened, New York Slice couldn't get away, and victory for Sriracha via the pit.
A brief but spectacular showing from our rookies as Sriracha moves on to the semis. They will face either the new Iron Mingo or live scene bot Brick Astley.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Now, I want no suggestions of bias here. but I want Iron Mingo to send Brick Astley home in a body bag. Go on, lads, get him. Get him. There's the big new spinner on Iron Mingo, going head-to-head with Brick Astley, who, of course, will never give you up, will never let you down, will never turn around, or desert you. So they say. Big flip there from Brick Astley. We've seen them on the Lego robots scene for a few years. Those in the know will know how potentially devastating that flipper is. Iron Mingo, a new concept based from the old Mingo robot, which had good control power but not necessarily the most effective weaponry, and was always prone to thermal cutout issues. And they're hoping that this will be an improvement on that concept and design. Iron Mingo stands back as Brick Astley is stuck on the arena wall. And can they get away from there? Yes, they can. Iron Mingo, oh, but they drove into the pit bun and they hit the arena wall, and the weapon chain is broken. Look, it's split on the floor underneath the tyre of Iron Mingo. And now Brick Astley have a bit of an open net here, because Iron Mingo is stuck on the arena wall. The paradox of Mingo from last series and a couple of series prior to that was the concept idea, the paradox Pokemon style thing from Pokemon Generation 9. Brick Astley, meanwhile, is absolutely cruising to victory here. If they're not careful, they could end up in the pit themselves, but it's a pretty commanding position for them to be in. Iron Mingo right on the lip of the pit.
6.
And down. Brick Astley surviving a little bit of a scare, but they will go through to the next round. Well done, Brick Astley. You won. Enjoy the money, etc., etc. Iron Mingo, a decent enough debut, but seemed to struggle with those recurring thermal cutout issues once again, as Brick Astley gave him a little bit of a lesson in the arena. The good lift here and there. The weapon chain snapping on Iron Mingo against the arena wall was a poor driving error there. Brick Astley with a comfortable victory.
Teething issues on the new Mingo take their toll, meaning Brick Astley makes it 3 out of 4 externals in the semis. It's up to Sweepy to hold up It's up to Sweepy to hold up home turf honour against Nightmare, as the latter aims to get revenge after their 1-2 KO in last year's International.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Nightmare then did survive a narrow judge's decision in the first round. Sweepy, of course, destroying Wacken-Aten, and 2 big spinners coming head to head in the second round as Nightmare and Sweepy collide for the first time. Can either of these two get the advantage? Nightmare with the big vertical weapon, of course, famed from BattleBots. Sweepy famed from Lego Wars with that big angled horizontal spinner. 2 collisions so far. Oh, and there's another one, and there is one of the 2 weapon chains for Nightmare. Are they having a nightmare at the moment? We'll have to wait and see how the rest of the fight goes, but that is not good for them. They won't enjoy the fact that they've lost at least some of their weapon chain. It will still operate, Nightmare, but maybe not to the full effectiveness that they would like. But they have managed to get round the back of Sweepy. So far, pretty tentative between the two. It's not something you really expect between 2 heavy hitters of this caliber. Sweepy, of course, not as mobile around the arena as Nightmare. Nightmare trying to pick an angle to try and attack from like that. Doesn't really get a clear, advantageous attack off on Sweepy, though. Sweepy just slowly progressing across the arena. Nightmare goes for the pit button. One thing to open the pit button against Sweepy, it is another to get Sweepy down. It is an absolute unit in the arena, of course. Shuffler robot allows them to have more weight in the arena. And a big impact there on the disc of Nightmare that has suddenly stopped and stilled and is not spinning the way it was and has had part of it snapped away. I wonder if there is a problem with the Nightmare weapon. It has not spanned for a while, and I think they could be in trouble. Oh, they're trying, but it's juddery. You can see it. Look, they're trying their best to get it up to speed, and now they're spinning it backwards. Not the best strategy, but it might pay off for them. Vibrating away. Oh, and a big impact again. I think that was part of Sweepy, I think. Part of the front armour from Sweepy. It wasn't. I can't tell where that's from. I'll be honest with you. I'm going blind in my old age. Nightmare has stopped on the arena wall. Just trying to spin up again, but can't quite manage it, and now it can't spin either way. Look, it's kind of jamming as it spins round. Sweepy, slowly but surely whittling away on Nightmare, and if that disc has stopped on Nightmare, that will count against Nightmare should it go the full 3 minutes and end up going to our panel of judges. We will have to see if that is the case. Sweepy stops still and tries to spin up their weapon, although it isn't really spinning up the way that they'd like to. We're down to the last few seconds here. It has been a tentative fight between these two, which is not what you'd expect, and it is going to go to time
6.
and a judge's decision between Sweepy and Nightmare. I wouldn't want to be a judge. Well, it was a very tense fight between these two heavy hitters. Sweepy once again kind of dictating the pace of the fight, but it's so hard to beat it if you're not doing that. The weapon chain on Nightmare breaking, and they tried their best to find angle after angle. They did manage to a few times, but the heavily armoured brick that is Sweepy just kept on coming. Damaging the weapon there was key as well. They weren't able to spin clearly after that, and Sweepy just capitalised, I think.
And the winner, by unanimous decision, is Sweepy. The disc finally snaps on Nightmare, helping Sweepy into the finals. They'll face the winner of our second semi between Sriracha and Brick Astley.
Robot ears, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Sriracha's disc reattach and the flipper of Brick Astley reset, and we're underway for the second semi-final to meet Sweepy in the Champions Ripperoni final. Of course, the winner of that fight between whoever wins this fight and Sweepy will fight Ripperoni, and immediately the disc has come flying off of Sriracha, and that could be crucial. Brick Astley now surely has an open net to try and secure the victory. The flipper has been pretty effective thus far, the front armour as well, knocking that disc off for a second time. It's so accurate to the robot that inspired it as well, I love it. Fair play. Sriracha then now becomes control bot. They've got the forks, they're in underneath Brick Astley, and can they maybe push Brick Astley down the pits? I guess that's their only option, or just control the entire fight from here on in, but that's not going to be an easy task with Brick Astley and that big flipper in action. Oh, and fires off the forks of Sriracha with a flip. Well, what are you going to do now, Sriracha? Try and nudge them to death, I guess? Brick Astley trying to get that flipper arm in underneath again and turn it over. Doesn't quite manage it there. And Sriracha does pressurise Brick Astley against the arena wall. So far, a pretty decent controlled display by Sriracha, but Brick Astley, I think, has got all the damage points sewed up, and I think it's going to be a real challenge for Sriracha now to capitalise from this. Can they go for the pit button maybe? That's got to be their only option, surely. They've gone for the pit there. They've activated it. The pit goes down. Sriracha does seem to have the edge on Brick Astley on pushing power. Interesting to know. Maybe that will be key later on. Brick Astley trying to get in underneath again, but doesn't fire the flipper. What are they waiting for? An opportunity like that maybe to try and flip them out of the arena. We've never had an out of the arena to date in LEGO Wars. Maybe Brick Astley will be the first to accomplish such a feat. Sriracha here, in control, but turned upside down. And now will that cause any problems? They can run upside down now that the disc has been removed, but it does mean that controls are inverted for the driver of Sriracha, and it nearly cost them as they nearly ended up down the pit. But still in the fight, and they're having to try and manoeuvre themselves to the side of Brick Astley, which isn't as easy to do now they are upside down. We'll have to remember that. Brick Astley in control, dominating in terms of point scoring. They've used their weapon effectively. Sriracha drives to the pits and down it. And I said about the confusion of the inverted control scheme. Brick Astley through. Well, there are 2 or 3 key moments in this fight that really set the tone. You see here the disc kind of coming a bit loose from a flip from Brick Astley and eventually completely clean off. To their credit, Sriracha did get underneath Brick Astley a few times and nudge them around, but as soon as their forks came off, it really did limit their effectiveness. Turned over and subsequently driving down the pit is the ending.
Sriracha really need to stop copying Mr Waffle's spinner homework as Brick Astley moves on to the final. The red flipper has shown Pegasus-esque flipping power so far, but against the dense brick that Sweepy is, it'll be tough for them to topple the veterans. Let's see who will earn the right to fight Ripperoni.
Robot ears, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
For the right to fight, Ripperoni, Sweepy and Brick Astley. Sweepy gets that spinning weapon up to speed. Brick Astley goes face to face with the LEGO Wars legend and flips it on its back! Now Sweepy, how are they going to get down from there? I think the answer is they don't. Brick Astley has flipped up the shuffler robot, and that has stunned me because Brick Astley has flipped a robot which weighs more than most opponents in the competition, and they've driven themselves into the wall. But they're going to get a victory here within the first few seconds of the fight. Sweepy defeated. Brick Astley is the winner and has turned Sweepy on its head. What a famous win for Brick Astley in its first time in the competition. Now, can they get them out of the arena? The fight is won, of course, but this is all for pride now for Brick Astley. Can they be the first robot ever to get an opponent out of the arena? They're going to struggle here. They're not going to be able to do it. Cease is called. A win for Brick Astley, though. What a fight! Well, let's show the highlight singular from that fight. I mean, there really wasn't much fight to it, was there? Brick Astley just came in underneath, turned their opponent over. Easy as you like. What a win. A famous win for Brick Astley. Sweepy defeated and turned over.
Big upset there as Brick does the unthinkable and flips Sweepy over. They've answered their doubts over their flipping potential tonight as they've gained momentum, and with no known self-riser on Ripperoni, the odds are really stacked against our final bounty boss. But anything can happen in LEGO Wars, so let's find out who will take the final spot in the finale.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
So here we go then. The right to fight Ripperoni was earned by Brick Astley. Ripperoni will be, of course, trying to be the first gatekeeper this series to make its way through to the LEGO Wars Champions Final. Of course, we saw Petunia beaten by Orby Blade. We saw Atlas defeated by Cow Tools. And last week, of course, Duck defeated by Shatterstar. Brick Astley have earned their way to fight Ripperoni, of course, probably the least experienced of the gatekeeper robots by some considerable distance, but they still had to win the International Special, and win it they did last year. They'll be aiming to replicate similar success here in LEGO Wars Champions, but Brick Astley has proven to be a formidable opponent for everyone so far in this episode, beating Sweepy, of course, a bona fide LEGO Wars legend, and so far are bullying Ripperoni. Ripperoni's weapon is causing some kind of impact, but they're not really capitalising, and they're not causing the damage that we would expect Ripperoni to do so here. And Ripperoni, they're trying their best to get that weapon into play, but Brick Astley so far has just deflected every single attack like it's nothing. No armour damage, nothing so far for Ripperoni, but can they turn the tide of the fight? Good flip by Brick Astley, and Ripperoni is stuck on the wall. The wheels are spinning, but nobody's home, and Brick Astley sits back. And will they just take the victory here and book a place in the LEGO Wars Champions finale? They have the option to do that, but Ripperoni is stuck. They go in for the extra coup de grace. Off comes the rear stabiliser based off the internal flywheel of the BattleBots version of Ripperoni. Ripperoni now know they're under pressure. They've hit the pit button, but they've been turned on their back. And now they're stuck on the pit button. They might be. Ripperoni once again turned completely over now. Brick Astley are in complete control of this fight. They push Ripperoni slightly towards the pit, but they can't get away. Look, that wheel is spinning in thin air. It can't escape. And Brick Astley has done an absolute job on Ripperoni here, it has to be said. They're in underneath once again and flip Ripperoni down the pit. Brick Astley is your winner, and they book the final place in the LEGO Wars Champions final. Well, you can see why Brick Astley is such a staple on the LEGO scene, can't you? It is just a very effective and powerful flipper in the arena. Ripperoni was made to look pretty average, and it's anything but in the arena here. Yes, it got a few hits on here and there, but it was mostly Brick Astley in complete control of the fight, and eventually ending up with Ripperoni losing its rear flywheel and being dumped down the pits.
And so it's Brick Astley who completes the demolition of our international champions. It's been a fascinating night in the LEGO Wars arena as the new flipper on the block, Brick Astley, tossed aside their foes and confirmed that a single international champ will be in our champions final next week, much to this announcer's despair. That's all from us tonight, but join us next time as our 4 challengers will take on our 4 series champions in the LEGO Wars Champions finale. For now though, I've been your host David of Smeg, and we'll see you in the next one.